You're watching the Fantasy Rankings Report only on Fantasy Now Plus. Here we go. We are up here running on the screen. My name is Christopher Kurt, but you can call me Topher. And I've got my co-host here, Michael Flores. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I do want to apologize in advance if I sound a little congested or nasally, battling a little cold out here.
Health problems are not our concern on this podcast.
Hey, I'm at the point right now where I wish it was Caleb Williams throwing around the cold because no way I would catch it. I don't mean that.
Yes.
I love him. I love him so much. I don't
Okay.
mean it.
I love that. I love that. That was very brilliantly stated, and I appreciate you for that. Okay, so we are the Fantasy Rankings Report podcast. I am the wide receiver expert, and running back expert. Our running back expert is Michael. This show is brought to you by Fantasy Now Plus and the Fins Talk Sports Network. You should subscribe to both. The links are in the description. You're also going to be seeing a bunch of stuff on Fantasy Now Plus. We're getting more articles out there. There's shows and stuff pretty much every day of the week of good content. This is not just us being like, oh, we're going to do this for the heck of it. No, we spend hours looking over this content, coming back, making sure we're checking things correctly, and then hopefully giving you some stellar fantasy advice. Let's go and get this first segment started off today. Go for it.
All right, so we have our ranking question of the day. One of us typically asks the other a question, whether it's about our field of expertise or just something related to fantasy football. This week, I'm going to stay within the running backs and playing a little game of higher or lower, but it's going to be a different way than we did it last time. So the running backs that I'm about to name to you have moved in rankings from week 1 to week 2 on an average about 14 spots.
Dang.
Now, I want you to guess if they rose in the rankings or if they went lower. And just a quick reminder for everyone, this is for our consensus top 72. Now,
Okay.
Since you're a teacher, I know you like extra credit. If you want some extra credit, I want you to guess where they are this week. So the four guys I'm going to name to you are Travis Etienne Jr., Caleb Johnson, Kareem Hunt, and A.J. Dillon.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at Travis Etienne. He's probably gone up a lot with his stellar performance last week with Tank Bigsby on the move. I'm going to say he went up 17 spots. That's my guess.
Okay.
Caleb Johnson. Oh, my heart. I think he had negative yardage, or else it was like +2 or -2, one of the two. And he had an atrocious snap share. Let me look at that snap share real quick because I know that I've got it here. His snap share this past week was 4%. 4%.
I think he had 2 attempts. I think he had 2 rushing attempts this week.
Yeah, -0.2 points in PPR. Yeah, he went down. I'm going to guess by 22. Kareem Hunt. I've been talking about him all offseason, saying he's going to get more than what you think. Stop putting Isaiah Pacheco above him by far. I have Kareem Hunt a little higher than him. They're pretty close, kind of like what I was doing with, Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatabo. Kareem Hunt went up. That's simple. I don't think it was by that much. I think maybe 7, 8. And then A.J. Dillon, obviously, just just fallen off the face of the planet. I don't think his number was that high to begin with, so I think it was another small movement, like a 6 or 7.
Okay, cool. So Etienne went from RB29 going into week 1, and he moved up to RB19. So nice little 10 bump.
There we go.
The one that I knew was going to hurt you just a little bit, Caleb Johnson.
You did that on purpose.
Went into the week as a RB34. Ended going into this week, RB50.
Mm.
Yeah, that one hurt him quite a bit. I think he got maybe 2 rushing attempts, did not look good. Kareem Hunt, interesting one. He started off week 1 running back 66. Going into week 2, actually, he's 49. So very big jump for him.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an interesting guy to look out for a few reasons, but we can talk about that later. And then AJ Dillon. He was not in anybody's top 72 going into the week, and he is actually going in at 62. He took a nice big jump, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I was just as surprised. I wasn't even going to include him until I realized how high he went. How high he rose.
What? That's
Yeah.
bonkers.
So they're expecting
he did
him
have-
to get some good reps going in.
He did have a 13% snap share, and Will Shipley only had a 8% one. Okay. Well, let me tell you, that was not what I was expecting going into that. Some of them I felt pretty good about, but the AJ Dillon one, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As we go into our first meat of the show segment, why did I stumble over that? Our first segment called Steady and Safe. We are going into this with each highlighting 3 players in our position of expertise that the consensus agrees upon, meaning that they have a small range. We take 8 websites and take their rankings and make a composite score out of all of it. So we use CBS, Fantasy Footballers, Fantasy Now Plus, Fantasy Pros, Going for 2, NFL, Rotoballer, and Yahoo. So those are the 8 sources that we use to collectively gather data and talk about who's people we should be safe with, who are people that are volatile. We're starting with our steady and safe category. This week, I'm saying Keon Coleman. Oh, this hurts me. Keon Coleman was not somebody that I was high on at all this offseason. I had him in fantasy last year. He hurt my soul, but he proved to be very, very valuable last week. It was kind of mean how valuable he was when he's now off my fantasy football team. But I think that it's great that he's going to be a clear contributor to this offense. He, amongst all wide receivers last week, was ranked wide receiver number 2 in PPR. He had his 26% target share. He was running routes 94% of the time. Like that's what we've been wanting for Josh Allen. And that was against the Baltimore Ravens. That wasn't against anyone else. And yes, the guy that I traded Keon to, who came on last week and talked about Keon, is here. Hey, Devin and I did play this last week. Hey, Devin, could you also comment how that went? Okay, Michael, who's your first steady and safe guy?
So I went a little lower, starting off with a running back 28, and that was J.K. Dobbins. So he has a range of 8. It's about 25 to 33, but he had a snap share versus Tennessee of 53%. Now he had 63 yards on 16 attempts and a touchdown, which is pretty much right where he finished last year. Week 17, he had 76 yards, 19 attempts, a touchdown. Then week 18, 63 yards on 18 attempts. So he's right. You know what you're going to get from him, and it's going to be right around there. Now, for a little bit, I wouldn't start him as my RB1, RB2 maybe, but if you're in a deeper league and your flex needs a little spot, that's one that you know how many points you're pretty much going to get from him.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Devin commented, quote unquote, worst team in the league, and I narrowly lost. You know what? You did put up a good fight. I will give you that. But at the same time, Devin, I mean, you did lose to the winner of the week 1 top scorer, and you are kind of the worst team in the league right now, and you know it. So deal with it. My next steady and safe wide receiver, again, Michael Pittman Jr. This guy really didn't get talked about a whole lot. I will be talking more about him later. He's at wide receiver 43, but the guy and Daniel Jones seemed to have a connection that could last a while. That could be really good this season. So I'm saying Michael Pittman, if he's a flex play for you, I think that he could be a steady and safe play.
Awesome. My next guy, going Jordan Mason, RB35. Now, why am I going to a backup on a steady and safe? Well, he had 54% of the snap count. Now, he wasn't supposed to be getting majority of the snaps, but for some reason they decided they liked him a lot more. And to be fair, he was producing more. He had 68 yards on 15 attempts this last week, and he looks like he's going to be the preferred running back in Minnesota. Now, that may only be early on in the season, but that's where we're at right now, is early in the season. So I'm looking for him to continue being the majority rusher, at least for the first few weeks. Going into week 2, I expect more out of him than Aaron Jones, unfortunately. And he's going up against ATL next, who allowed about just over 100 yards last week.
Yeah. There you go. That's really nice. Okay. I realized that I doubled up on my steady and safe and the guys I wanted to talk about in the later segment. I don't know why I did that. I think I did one segment last night, one segment today. So I do want to talk about in another steady and safe. Sorry, my husband just got home and my dogs don't know what it means to not scream at the top of their lungs. So there's a little cacophony of barks for you. Another steady and safe play is going to be Jaden Reed of the Packers. Yes, that might sound a little gross because he did score a touchdown last week and that was about it. And he had some targets and stuff, but Matthew Golden wasn't the guy that I touted him to be last week, even in a dominant Packers effort. And the experts literally have a range of him at 2. They are literally 47 through 49 on him across the board. He's wide receiver 47. I think that he's somebody that you can slip into a flex play if you need to. It's going to be another high scoring game because they play the Commanders and Jordan Love's going to throw the ball more.
Awesome. My third guy for steady and safe is actually a guy that dropped in tiers this week. He was going from running back 1 tier to running back 2. And his range is a little bigger than my other steady and safe guys. He's the RB14, range of 10 to 19. That's Jonathan Taylor. He is who you can get your expectations from, to be honest. Now, he's the lead back, 71% of the snap count. He had 71 yards on 18 attempts, but he also had 3 receptions for 27 yards. Now, if you're not in our Discord, I recommend you joining. But a question came up, is he washed? I think it's too early to say something like that. It's an interesting question, though. It's a very good discussion. Now, he is going up against Denver next week, who has a great defense, arguably one of the best defenses. And they looked good against Tennessee. But even though Tennessee did not perform, they did not look good, Pollard still had 60 yards on 18 attempts. And do you think Pollard's better than Taylor?
No.
I don't think so. Right. So I'm looking for Jonathan Taylor to be able to feed off of that and to be able to at least go up from here. And even though he dropped a tier, I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah. You know what, I'm with you. I think it definitely is too early to tell with him. It is a good question. I hadn't thought about that, but maybe they're liking DJ Giddens more than what we think right now. Experts against experts. This is the biggest part of the show. This is where we each highlight 5 players in our positions of expertise that the consensus disagrees on. We'll talk about one from each tier. For example, wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go from there. We finally have had some real NFL football that we can not just be talking hyperbolically about. We actually get to talk about tangible things that have happened within the last 8 months. Today, I want to start off my wide receiver 1 tier with Jackson Smith-Njigba. This guy just he's got a range. I was so ready to talk about him already. He has a range of 6. So wide receiver 10 to wide receiver 16, listed as wide receiver 11. He had a bonkers 56.5 target share. 56.5% target share this past week. That's insane. You're a really good receiver if you end up the end of the season with 30% target share. Like that's kind of ridiculously high. He came away with that. Darnold threw for only 150 yards last week. JSN had 124 of them. 82% of Sam Darnold's receiving yards went to JSN. Is that going to be how it is all the time? Absolutely not. But holy cow, that's insane. Ian Hartitz tweeted this: most unrealized air yards in week 1. Unrealized air yards is total air yards on incomplete targets. JSN was number 3 in the NFL with 83 additional yards that he could have had by total air yards on incomplete targets. The number 1, Alec Iominor of the Titans with 120, CeeDee Lamb second with 116, and the rest of them were Brian Thomas Jr., Tyquan Thornton, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase. Most of those names are pretty big. And then you've got JSN up there. You've got a couple sleepers in there, but JSN having that many unrealized air yards with him, that's insane. Per fantasy points data, JSN was the first read 66.7% of the time. So as the quarterbacks are going out, looking out, who's my 1, who's my 2, 66.7% of the time, which is the highest by any third highest by any wide receiver since 2021. So over the past 5 years, he just had the third highest first reads from Sam Darnold in his first NFL start with Sam Darnold. That is pretty great. He also only ran routes on 88% of the team's snaps, which is 36th among wide receivers in week 1. So yes, 88% is still a great number to have. But that's not even top 32 one from each team. He was lower in that. So he was doing all of this with not being on the field 100% of the time. I think that JSN is a smash. I think that he looked incredible. And I think those experts that have him down at 16 are bonkers. We have a what up guys from Maddie Randoms. picking up the Saints defense and dropping the Texans. I have Packers on the bench. There you go. I will tell you, I don't know much personally about defenses. I play in very little leagues with them. What about yourself, Michael?
Yeah, I think I'm in maybe a work league with defenses, and that's about it.
Yep. Yeah. So sorry, we can't focus on that. But if you've got wide receiver, running back things you want to talk about, please feel free to chime in. Michael, talk about your running back one.
Yeah, so my first guy, RB1's here. I'm going Devon Achane. He's at RB7 right now, but he's got a range of 10. Some people right now have him as high as 2 and as low as 12. So everyone has him in the RB1 tier.
Wow.
But yeah, he's either borderline or he's going to be the guy this week. So the consensus is pretty sure he's going to do well. Just some people think he's going to do extremely well. Now, going into week 1 with his injury, he still saw 73% of the snap count. And to be fair, the Colts made Miami look terrible. Like Miami was,
Yes.
I don't even know how to describe what Miami was doing out there. They were on preseason week 6 or something. I don't know. But he
I
had
think that's
55.
giving them credit.
Yeah, seriously. But he did have 55 yards on 7 rushes, so they weren't really running the ball. Even though he was in all game, they just weren't running the ball. They couldn't. There was no point. They were down by like 7 touchdowns in the first like 2 minutes. It was ridiculous. But he also did have 3 receptions for 20 yards and a touchdown. Now, he did finish the week RB10, and he's going up against a New England team who allowed only 56 rushing yards next week. But there's no way New England does that again. They are not doing that in back-to-back weeks. And if you're the Dolphins, you should be coming into this game angry. What more do you want than to hand it off to the guy that can run you over? Now, granted, we have to make sure his hamstring's still healthy, but he played in 73% of the snap count last week, so I'm assuming it is. I'm expecting him to have way more attempts than 7. Honestly, that's probably going to be close to double, if not a little bit more than double, which theoretically is going to lead to more yards. So that range of 2 to 12 is a little ridiculous. I'm probably banking it's closer to the lower number of 12, but he's still going to come up and show off next week.
Yeah, I think that Devon Achane is obviously a bounce back candidate based off of what happened last week. You're not going to see, hopefully you're not going to see much worse play than that this season. It felt like a large high school coming in and playing, this really small school that only plays with normally plays 7-man football instead of 11. Interesting thing though about Achane, he gets a lot of his work from the receiving game. Last year, he only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games above 50 rushing yards. So and he played all those games. There was only one game where he didn't have at least a 50% snap share. So rushing, he's not going to rush you 100 yards games most of the time, but he could probably get it combined receiving rushing.
For sure.
Yes. Okay, here we go. I want to talk about my wide receiver 2 tier guy. I have been talking about him since he was drafted. I love this guy, Zay Flowers, people. Zay Flowers. People said his ceiling was capped. People said he was just going to be a mid-tier guy. Zay Flowers led the league in receiving yardage last week against the Buffalo Bills. Yes, was it a shootout? Yeah, but also Zay Flowers, currently ranked wide receiver 20, has a range of 18 in our rankings, 16 being the highest, 34 being the lowest, had a 47.4% target share. That's second most on the week behind JSN, who I just talked about. He had the second highest first read of this week. He was the first read 53.3% of the time this past week. He looked electric when wide receivers are out there and playing, there's an average yard of separation that wide receivers have. You want that separation that makes plays, that makes big things happen. Average wide receiver has a 2.98 yards of separation from their defender. Zay Flowers on Sunday night, had 5.27. He had averaged 5 yards of separation from his defender the entire game. That's insane. That's bonkers. He was used all over the field in different formations, running, passing. He wasn't just sticking to one spot on the field. He also was on the field for 100% of snaps. He ran routes on 100% of the team snaps, obviously tied for first amongst wide receivers in week 1. Something you should know about Zay Flowers right here is he scored more fantasy points in week 1 than Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins, and Devonta Smith combined. Chase, Collins, Brown, McLaurin, Higgins, Smith combined. Thank you, Michael Fabiano, for that tweet right there. I think that Zay Flowers deserves his flowers. I think that he is. I can't believe somebody has him down at 34. I can't believe his consensus is wide receiver 20 right now. Yes, did he have a game that he's probably not going to match throughout the rest of the season? Probably. But does this show you that he has the ceiling that I keep talking about? Yes. Zay Flowers needs to be played. He needs to be up there in your top 15 wide receivers right now. That is my personal opinion. Zay Flowers, screw what the haters say. The YouTubers all sat there and were like, this isn't going to work. Zay Flowers works.
I knew Zay Flowers was going to come up today. He kicked my ass.
Yes. Sorry that he kicked your butt, but I mean, I have been tooting this horn for years. Whew.
Yeah, I thought I was going to do all right. I had AJ Brown. They had Zay Flowers. The difference in points there is absolutely ridiculous. Like AJ Brown got me 1.8 maybe. I don't know. It was something atrocious.
No.
But my RB2 tier, I'm going with someone we talked about a little while ago. I was kind of doing a little bit of a sneak peek. That's Travis Etienne Jr. And he's going into the week at RB19. He's got a huge range. And I mostly blame NFL for this. Their rankings confuse me. But he's got a range of 26.
Something else.
They absolutely are. But he's got a range of 26, 17 to 37, which is just a little ridiculous. He absolutely went off against Carolina. Now, I know it's Carolina, but he went off 143 yards on 16 attempts, finished as our RB6. Is he going to replicate that week in, week out? No. But like you said with Zay Flowers, we know where the ceiling can be, and it is climbing. Now he's got the Bengals up next, which they only allowed 49 rushing yards last week, but it was against the Browns. It's the Browns. I wasn't expecting anything from them.
Dylan Sampson did look good, and he had
did.
A lot of receiving work.
He did, and he actually had the most attempts on his team as well. They did not have any faith in Jerome Ford by any means. And that's the thing. The Jaguars are a much better offense than the Browns. And that's in both passing and running. So no matter what you're expecting to happen there, I'm looking for Etienne to have another big season. I like him much closer to that 17 mark than that 37 that they have him way down there. And with Tank gone, I mean, I really don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm going Etienne to the moon this season. I really do like him.
Yeah, just a season removed from being the running back 3. Like, We know where his ceiling is. I kind of lost faith in him last year watching him play. And this year he looks like 2023 Travis Etienne. That's fun. That's fun. When guys come back and you go, "Oh, okay, this is who I know he should be." I love it. The Hound House. Sorry for not getting to this earlier. Thank you for watching. You commented this during my joyous rant of Zay Flowers, and I'm sorry that took over. I have Kayshon Boutte now, but Jaden Reed is available to pick up. Do I need to pick up Reed? As a Packers fan, this is going to hurt my soul. I want you to stick around because Kayshon Boutte is somebody that I'm going to be talking about later and why you need to keep him on your team. I love Jaden Reed. I think Kayshon Boutte has a better fantasy season than him. What about yourself, Michael?
I have a lot of Boutte going around right now. He is currently sitting on my taxi squad in my dynasty league, and he's looking to get elevated.
Yeah. Ugh. Ooh. If you can drop somebody else for Reed, yes. There's not a whole lot of bench players right now that I would say, ooh, keep them over Jaden Reed. Boutte's one of maybe the one of three that I would do, especially as a Packers fan. My wide receiver 3-tier guy is Jakobi Meyers. I've talked about him before early in this show about how he needs to be respected more. He's currently wide receiver 30, has a range of 17. So 23 is his highest, 40 is his lowest. This guy is incredible. I want to tell you some of the things that is going on. He has played 13 games without Davante Adams since Adams left Las Vegas. Here's the result: 8.6 targets a game, 6.2 catches a game, 74.7 receiving yards a game, 26.3% target share, and 15.2 PPR points per game. Thank you, Adam Pfeiffer, for that tweet right there that I could just read that off. That's great play right there. He was being drafted at wide receiver 40. He was being drafted low. Last week, he made the second most forced missed tackles on runs and receptions. Jahmyr Gibbs had 7. Chase Brown, CMC, and Jakobi Meyers had 6. So normally you're not getting a whole bunch of missed tackles from your wide receivers. Also, his target count since Davante Adams was traded last year, starting from the most recent game from Sunday to the first time he played without Davante Adams. 10, 10, 9, 5, 9, 10, 11, 15, 7, 11. He is getting incredible target share that you want to run with. That's somebody that you want to run with hardcore on your team. Also, he had a 30% target share. The next highest receiver on his team, rookie Dante Thornton with 12%. Geno Smith is a yardage king. He is QB4 in yards last year. Overall, he had 4,300 something yards last year. Week 1, he throws for 362 yards in week 1. Second most behind Josh Allen, who threw 251 in the fourth quarter. Without Josh Allen literally throwing a game's worth of yardage in the fourth quarter, Geno Smith is up there. Is top of that game. Geno Smith had 8 games at 250 passing yards or more last year on a Seattle team that had a little bit more viable stuff going on, especially on the defensive side. The Giants have a good front line. I would not their secondary. We talked about their secondary last week with like Caillou Kelly Blue, hair gel for Zan, whatever his name was. No offense, bro. You're in the NFL, but don't know you. And it's just like this team's going to have to pass. Brock Bowers is already an option. Jacoby Myers is an option. And then they have little sprinkles of threats right there. I just think that you need to run. You need to run with Jacoby Myers on your team. People are still going to always underrate him. I love him.
I did pick him up in one league. Or I should say I drafted him in one league because of you. So
yeah,
I am hoping that he does go off. Now, my RB3 tier guy, his range is 23. Some people have him as high as 18, where cool, he's RB2, and as low as 41, where you're mid RB4. Now that's quite a bit of a range. He's going in RB26. That's Javonte Williams. He won some people money this week. He went off right away on Thursday. He had 54 rushing yards on 15 attempts, but he had 2 touchdowns. Ended up finishing as the RB5. Now, I wouldn't say expect a couple touchdowns every week or every other week, because he got a lot of help with Jalen Carter getting ejected before the first snap. That whole opening to the NFL season was absolutely ridiculous.
Insane.
You got one guy, I think he tear his patella, I think he did. Getting carted off the field. Well, you got Jalen Carter spitting on Dak. It was just an absolute show before the game even actually started. But they took advantage quickly. And that's kind of what you have to do. You know that all of a sudden whatever they were preparing for just got completely thrown out the window, attacked that defense, and they did. They took advantage quickly. Now they're going up against the Giants next. That should be a much easier competition there. Last week they allowed 220 rushing yards to Washington, and 82 of those was to our boy Bill the rookie.
Yes,
I do love
Bill
me some
Clinton,
Bill.
Krosky, Merritt, Alexander Hamilton the third.
Now, he's not Bill, but I'm expecting a nice little rushing upgrade coming in next week against them. And I want Dallas to use that momentum of, hey, Javonte Williams looked good, Giants don't. Let's try to pound that ball again. I'm looking for them to use him even more than they did this past week. And I'm hoping for a little bit more than 54 rushing yards. We'll probably get a touchdown sprinkled in there too. I mean, they're going to use him at that goal line. He proved that he can do it. Might as well just feed him.
Yeah. I mean, talk about a fantasy football surprise right there. I if you went into the season hoisting the Javonte Williams flag, I think you're a liar. I don't think you did that. But the fact that, the way that he played, he looked good. It's kind of like what we talked about with Travis Etienne earlier, or what I'm about to talk about with Michael Pittman. There's a resurgence of some of these guys that have had juice before, and that's fun. Is this week 1 juice? Is this juice that's going to sustain throughout the season? Is it a flash of the pan juice? We don't know. We don't even think these guys had juice left. That's the joy of fantasy football, not knowing what's happening. Wide receiver 4 tier right here is Michael Pittman. Wide receiver 43. He's got a range of 7, so it's kind of a smaller range. But right now, as we're getting lower, since it's not draft season, as we're getting lower into our rankings, I'm finding that like my wide receiver 4, 5, 6 tiers, their ranges are getting smaller because everybody's pretty even on those things. Michael Pittman played through the majority of 2024 with a fractured back. In 4 seasons that he has in 4 seasons in a row, he has had 100 plus targets. He's going to be well on his way with Daniel Jones again to 100 plus targets. Before 2023, he finished as a top 20 wide receiver 3 years in a row. Then we saw his dud season last year. Fractured back. If I tweak my back, I don't want to move for the next week. Fractured back. That's insane. Here's some perspective for you. Would you rather draft or have on your team Michael Pittman or Jalen Waddle?
So, ironically, I have both of them in my main dynasty league, and I went out of my way and traded a little extra going into last year for Michael Pittman, and I don't exactly regret it, but it hurt all of last year. I would probably take Pittman. I do not trust the Dolphins right now.
Me
I
either.
like Waddle a lot, but I do not trust the Dolphins one bit.
No. So I say that because at Guru Fantasy World, David J. Gautieri, I can't ever say his last name right. Great dude to follow. Michael Pittman Jr. outscored Jalen Waddle in total points and points per game in both 23 and 2024. He's also currently outscoring him in 2025. And they're only 1 year apart in age. They feel like Michael Pittman feels a lot older. And he's just 1 year older. So that's something to consider. Now, when you're looking at this, you do have to consider he's playing the Broncos next week. The Broncos, with Pat Surtain, according to PFF, he had 34 coverage snaps, 0 receptions allowed, 1 forced incompletion, 39.6 passer rating allowed. There's a reason why he is Defensive Player of the Year. This guy is bonkers insane. Something else that you should know is last week, the Broncos allowed from wide receivers 48 total receiving yards. Total. Yes, were they playing Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley and just a bunch of what else is happening? Yes. 48 yards is insane. Just bonkers to specifically the wide receiver position, which was least allowed in the league. And they had only 7 receptions. There were 2 teams that had 5 receptions and 1 that had 6 receptions to the wide receiver. So they shut down this position. We saw Daniel Jones and the Colts absolutely trounce the Dolphins. We've talked about that. Are they going to do this against a Broncos defense that just in the first round last year drafted another cornerback in the first round to pair with Surtain? I have Michael Pittman here because I love what he did last week. He had a 28% target share. The next highest on his team were Alec Pierce and Josh Downs, tied for 10%. He had 88% routes run out of when they were running routes. He was out there 88% of the time. Do I love them playing the Broncos this week, though? No. So you go buy low on him next week. You don't play him this week. If you have to, obviously. But if you have a Jaden Reed, if you have a Kayshon Boutte, if you have somebody like that has a little bit more upside, I'd go with it. Also, speaking of the Titans real quick, Alec Iomayanor, 121 unrealized air yards that we talked about earlier. Go grab him. Run. Don't walk. Run. Trade for him. Get him on your team. There's chemistry there with Ward. He is my guy that I think will win people fantasy football playoffs. I think that he is my number one. Hold this guy. Wait for him to explode. And he's just not being ranked high enough to normally talk about him on the show. So bringing up Broncos and what they did to him last week felt like it was a just time to do that.
I actually just wrote that down because I love that. I want to see who I can steal him from.
He's probably going to be available in a lot of leagues. I don't think people might be noticing him, but I will look at that. See, I will look that up, and while you're talking, and then tell you that from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next guy is a guy that, if I'm being honest, I kind of forgot about. Not like I didn't realize he was still playing, kind of forgot about, but more of a, what's he doing right now? That's Nick Chubb. He's at RB 37. He's got a range of 15, 30 to 45. He didn't do terrible last week. He did have 60 yards on 13 attempts against the Rams, and he finished right around where they think he's going to be this week, RB 37. The thing that really actually surprised me, because I didn't think he still had a whole lot of gas in the tank, Next Gen says that he forced 7 missed tackles. Now, I didn't really see that coming, and I know that the Bears were looking at him in the offseason, and they were thinking, well, maybe he can be our backup. It does seem kind of we need a backup if we can't stay healthy. But I was really surprised by the fact that he was still able to force 7 missed tackles. Now, next, he's going up against Tampa Bay, who allowed 69 rushing yards to Bijan Robinson, of all people.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson did not show up as a running back last week, but he did show up as a receiver. He had 100 receiving yards and a touchdown. He led that Atlanta team in receiving yards at 100. That's over Drake London, who I thought was just going to absolutely go off. Now, I don't expect something like that from Chubb, but I just thought that was an interesting person to bring up, just because of the fact that maybe there is still a little bit of gas in that tank. Might not be a whole lot, but it was cool seeing it.
Yeah, I think, I would love to have him have a resurgence. Obviously, he won't get back to Cleveland days, but it'd be nice to see that happen again. So, according to Sleeper, Alec Iomanor has a 90% rostered. So people are picking up on this. So I think you buy him low now, because last week he had 4 receptions for 41 yards and 6 targets. Like that's worth it. That's worth a chance. That's worth a shot as a rookie 4th rounder. I've been really good about I just said that and I was like, oh no. Okay, if you listen to the first episode of this podcast, I apologize for the amount of so yeah butts that I threw out there. Speaking of butts, let's talk about Kayshon Boutte. Booty, wide receiver 53. I hope that Hound House that you are listening, and then Broly _619. We will answer your question here shortly. Thank you for listening and watching. Kayshon Boutte, wide receiver 53. He has a range of 19. Highest ranking is 40. Lowest ranking is 59. We need to talk about his last 4 weeks. Here's what his last 4 weeks of gameplay has been. 5 receptions, 95 yards, and a touchdown. 7 targets. 4 receptions, 28 yards, 5 targets. 7 receptions on 7 targets, 117 yards, and a touchdown. And then 6 receptions on 8 targets and 103 yards. Want to know something crazier? He has the 5th most receiving yards in the past 4 games. Last 4 regular season games. Drake London has the most, followed by Malik Neighbors, Ricky Pearsall, Ladd McConkey, Kayshon Boutte, Brian Thomas Jr., and Justin Jefferson.
What a group to be around.
Yes. He was at one point a 5-star talent. I remember seeing on the draftnetwork.com when they were I would look at that and look at mock drafts at what they were doing. I remember Kayshon Boutte at one point was mocked to be the number 4 overall pick in the draft. And then his senior year injury happened and he just fell off. But he's had this. He was an LSU top guy. And him and Drake May, they look like they've been playing together for years. Their connection's insane. I think that's something you need to look for. I think he's a flex play. I think he's a very solid flex play. Before Kayshon Boutte was hurt in week 1, he was on the field for every snap. Diggs and Douglas, his 2 competitive wide receivers right there, were both under 50% of snap share before Boutte got hurt. There are also 5 players that recorded 6 gains of 10 yards or more in week 1. Derrick Henry, Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Kayshon Boutte. How is Kayshon ending up next to these names? These are the perennial guys. This is CeeDee Lamb, future Hall of Famer. Derrick Henry, that Hall of Fame might as well be named after him at some point. Puka Nacua, if he stays healthy, Hall of Famer. JSN, could have all pro seasons. Kayshon Boutte. Yeah. This is if you've got to get one of the two between him and Io Manor, go get Boutte. I think that Drake May and him are going to have a connection that people want Stephon Diggs and Drake May to have. I am all in on the Boutte.
Dude, I love that so much. I have him in my taxi squad. I just didn't realize what exactly was happening with him. It was just, hey, I'll put him in my taxi squad and he's there. If I need to elevate someone, I will. But dude, you've sold me. I'm elevating him immediately. That is crazy.
The amount of times that I got him in the 18th or 20th round of best ball drafts, he went undrafted in so many best ball drafts this year. Just not even touched. And I'm like, he was one of the most successful wide receivers in the last 3 weeks last season. Him and Drake May, there's no difference. Yes, Stephon Diggs there. Kyle Williams is there. Kyle Williams didn't play much. Kyle Williams isn't going to compete him right now. Maybe later, but right now, Kayshon Boutte could end up being your fantasy darling of the season. The waiver wire grab of the season.
I love it. So my last guy, my RB5, I went with another what's he kind of doing right now because he hasn't really looked that good. And that's Kareem Hunt. He's at RB49. He's got a range of 11. And I bring him up mostly because of our little game that we had at the beginning. He had a huge raise in rankings. Right now his range is 11, 41 to 52. Did not look good this past week. He only had 5 attempts, 16 yards. To be fair, this is pretty much the same as Pacheco. Pacheco was 5 attempts and I believe 25 yards. They weren't running. He had about a 38% snap count. They just weren't running the ball. Mahomes ran the ball. That's about it. And that's the only reason I bring him up is because on the surface, I know people kind of look at this huge jump in rankings and they're just going to assume, hey, I'm expecting something. That means they're expecting something from him. He's going to be doing this. He's going to be doing that. Just do not fall for that surface level information. Especially next week, they're going up against the Eagles.
Yeah.
The Eagles are your reigning Super Bowl champions for a reason. Now, they did give up 119 total rushing yards to Dallas. But again, as I said earlier, no Carter. He served his suspension for that game with that game. I don't fully understand it, but I guess since he didn't actually play,
because he didn't play a snap.
I get it. I don't get it. But it is what it is. He's coming back next week. Do not take the hype on the huge rise of Kareem Hunt. Do not go for it.
I get that, especially with going against the Eagles. Pacheco was on the field for 48% of snaps. Kareem Hunt was on there for 40% of snaps, but they each had 45% of the team's designated rush attempts. They split that pretty evenly. But looking fantasy wise, you're not seeing much anything different, as you alluded to earlier. Just he's a if you need him flex, he's a bye week kind of guy. He's not gonna put out top 36 numbers by the end of the season, more than likely, but Pacheco probably won't either. Good. I like that. Okay, Broly _619 asks Hampton or ETN at flex. That's good. That's a tough one. What do you think, Michael? Go for it.
I am going with ETN based on ceiling. So Hampton is going up against the Raiders. Now I don't remember exactly what Trayvon Henderson did, and I'm only comparing him to Henderson because they're both rookies. I know Henderson got more of the snap counts to start, but they had Henderson running away from Max Crosby the entire time.
Yes.
Every single one of his rushes were to the left. And that's for a reason. Crosby is still Crosby. I like Hampton. I am high on Hampton, but I'm not sure I like him against the Raiders this week, and I'm going to go ETN.
I'm going to go the same way. Who does ETN play this week?
I have that written down. I did know that. That is... He is going up against the Bengals. He is going up against Cincinnati.
Okay. So you did talk about that earlier. I like ETN's upside more. We haven't seen Hampton's upside, and I don't trust seeing Hampton's upside against Max Crosby. And even last week, Henderson, as the rookie wide receiver, only had 33% of their designated rush attempts and only played 34% of snaps. I think he only had 5 touches last week.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so he only had 5 touches. He did stuff with it, but it doesn't mean that teams aren't going to see what the Patriots did and go, "Oh, okay." He did have 6 targets, 6 receptions, but only 24 yards. He had 5 attempts for 27 yards. Travion Henderson did, but that's not anything that you're going to be like, "Yes, I'm so glad I started him." ETN is going to give you a higher upside. He could also give you a lower floor, but I think ETN right now, I think you start him over Hampton. Our experts have him back to back, where Hampton is at running back 18, ETN is at 19. However, if you take out the egregious NFL rankings where they have Hampton at 15 and ETN at 37, and yes, these are updated rankings. The NFL.com is doing NFL things. You take those 2 out, those numbers are extremely different. There's a much bigger equilibrium. So I think ETN is there. And my buddy Matt is waving. Hey, Matt. Thank you for checking this out. Speaking of checking this out, we are about to check out ourselves because it is 8:00 Central Time, and we've been doing this for an hour. We're getting really good at this timing.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. You can follow me at Topher K44 on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and Michael at MP Flores 90. Do you have anything for the good of the cause before we peace out?
Yeah, before we do go, if you look at our description, you'll see a DFS link with DraftKings that we are doing weekly. Feel free to join. I finished third. I'm so upset. I was so close. I finished third. Gets me the same amount of money from everybody below me, but come join. Let's see if you can beat us.
Yeah, that's a great call. I don't remember that. I didn't want to bring it up because I definitely finished much worse than third. But come join us. It's $2 a week. Okay. You can buy McDonald's sweet tea with that, depending on
Bragging
where
rights
you
are
live.
forever.
Exactly. Bragging rights are forever. Third place is forever as well. Okay. So join us there. Check us out on socials, us as individuals. Check out the websites that we talked about earlier and everything in the descriptions. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We appreciate you, and deuces.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.